Good day to you, Jason here, Birchfield Family Farm, Oxford, Ohio. Running grass-fed Red Devon cattle, St Croix sheep, chickens, and pigs in a rotational grazing system. Good word today comes from Psalm 67. May God be gracious to us and bless us and make his face shine on us so that your ways may be known on earth, your salvation among all nations. Okay, 12 inches of snow here was dumped on us yesterday. We're going to do a recap today. What worked, what didn't, in this setup here that we planned out before the storm. Successes and failures here. The real story now and today is single-digit temperatures right now. We've got a brutal wind coming out of the west, northwest, -13. We're sitting right now with the wind chill. I'm not going to be out here long. We're going to have to tuck into the one of the barns here, but you can see right now. I'm actually not sure if you can see, but the livestock are back over by the water, and I want them. The wind has shifted. There they are. The wind has shifted from the east. The storm, the wind came in from the east again. We'll talk through that, but basically coming out of the west now, so I want them over on our windbreak. We've got some hay over there. Let's head over and see if we can kind of coax them over that way. Okay, so much better tucked over here out of the wind. You can see where we put some hay down already. You know, I'll tell you what's fascinating to me, and I'm not going to walk all the way out there, but I'll see if Sam can maybe take the drone. I mean, we've got tracks heading all the way back out there to our stockpile. Now, we've been putting out hay now, well, through yesterday, certainly. And they have gone, I believe they've been back out there to that stockpile already today. Look at this one here, digging. They're going to try and find whatever little grass sprigs they can get here. You can see they're holding their temperature just fine there, snow on the backs. That's a good thing. Now, look at the way that this storm moved in. Luckily, we had the sense to put the tarp down over the hay. But I mean, look at the snow. You can see the snow clear back here in the barn. You know, I mean, just unbelievable. Look at the snow on the back side of this tarp. Anyway, we'll peel this tarp off, and we actually cut down a big round. Oh yeah, nice dry hay here, and going to use our homemade haylage in the back there and kind of mix them up a nice little concoction here to keep them warm today. I'll get some of this thrown out. You know, everybody's doing just fine here, even at -13, but I can tell just by the way they look, the way they're standing around, I can just tell that they are hungry. So I'm going to get some hay out to them here, and we'll talk through this. Okay, so talking about this storm here, talking successes and failures. To me, the biggest things, we've talked about this before, but it's wind in the wintertime. You guys know, we got this thing we call the three-sided barn. That's west, that's east. And so we set up this area for them here, 4 hot strands. And, just thinking, hey, they can tuck out of that west wind. I was thinking if there's an east wind, they can go on the other side of this barn. This storm, I'll tell you, it was a little bit wicked in terms of wind and what the wind was doing, because it was like the pretty much, and it still baffles me here. I got a friend that's a weather guru, and he was trying to explain it, but basically I still don't really understand how you get a front that moves from the southwest to the northeast with winds coming in exactly the opposite direction. I think he's explaining it to me, saying it's something with at different height level, different altitudes, you have different wind directions and the way that the air masses are, coming together and moving. And I don't know. I don't understand it all. But basically what happened is the snow and the wind and everything came in from that way. So this was pretty much just about worthless. So I'll take you over here and kind of show you. I'm not going to call it a failure, but the wind was out of the east. Then it started coming out of the north, and so I just really didn't feel like they were protected. We talked about this before, but, it's not a life or death thing with our livestock because they're used to winter, they're used to wind. What we've noticed is they'll just absolutely burn through hay when we don't get them out of the wind. Your hay costs just go way up. And so having a windbreak is huge. Today, feeding them here, this is great. We're out of that west wind. Not sure if you can see the windmill out there, but the tail on that thing is facing straight east. Having them out of the wind, you'll consume a lot less hay. It's just easier on them. But again, we do have the stock that can handle temperatures and wind. So this area here, you can see that firewood stack up against the fence. Remember that. This here, we do have electric at this post, and I have an extension cord. And I just want to tell you guys, this right here, okay, this is the star of the show. And I want to highlight that, say a few things about it. This water is a Ritchie Thrifty King. It gets below 0. I do run an immersion heater out here. You can see -13, and everything is unfrozen. They have access to, that's probably 50-degree water in there. That's going to help kind of keep them going. Okay, good, clean, fresh, warm. I won't say warm, but above freezing water. Now, this area here, we stacked up the firewood, and so when that east wind came in, you can see everybody came over here and just bedded down. I mean, they know what to do. And the sheep especially bedded down right over in this area. If I got a few shots here from yesterday, I'll put them up. But, we kind of piled a little snow then, down below. We could have kept going with it there, but this was enough to kind of get them out of that wind, and it helped. It worked. This thing here, just a couple notes on this. If you're going to do winter livestock and you're anywhere close to my area, you really want to be looking at one of these automatic waters. One thing I did not understand and found out fairly recently is there's a concrete lip here. You can't see it, but it's just see the edge of it there, but it extends up. I think it's 3 or 4 inches maybe, and that lip goes all the way around this thing. And if you're going to put one of those in, if you read Ritchie's directions on these things, installation, that lip is very important. There you can kind of see it over here. But basically, having that lip there, animals will never put their back legs up and stand on that to where their back legs are higher and then defecate. They won't do that. We've been on the farm almost a decade, and this water here, you can see it's pretty shot, it's cracked up, still works. This thing's probably 2 decades old, I would imagine. And I've never, that I can recall, seen an animal defecate in this water. So that is hugely valuable. Just they've got installation specs. I'm not affiliated with Ritchie. It's just something that has worked for us. Again, this thing is super old. There's a riser down below here that lets the warm air from the ground flow up and keep this thing unfrozen. Again, just as an insurance policy, when we're below 0, I'll put this immersion heater in there, and that's plugged into that post I showed you there. So just giving you guys some ideas, running numbers on that. I mean, if a sheep's consuming a gallon a day of water, and a cow, let's just say the cows are doing 10 gallons a day, with our flurd here, 50-some, mid-50s head of sheep, and we got eight head of Devon now. I mean, it's like 130 gallons of water a day. A lot of people just take water for granted. But in the wintertime, I mean, that's part of the reason why, we've got two pens in there in the barn. I mean, that's one of the primary reasons I don't run them in the barn, is because I'm going to have to deal with water in the barn. And I'm not putting one of these in the barn. You go putting them in the barn, and then you've got a whole nother set of issues with, dealing with manure and diseases. I think it does weaken your stock somewhat, have them in the barn. Just not what I'm wanting to do here, but this is one of the primary reasons for keeping them out, is that 130 gallons of water a day. I'm not hauling it. There's an automatic valve in here, buried water line below the frost line. So when they drink, this thing fills back up. So I'm not hauling water. I'm not busting up ice. I'm not dealing with anything really water related all winter long as we're feeding hay. Even on the stockpile, right? This is where, and you can see I got a path here. You know, on the stockpile, this is why we left this open for them to come back and hit this water. And again, I would say at least twice the water consumption when we're feeding hay versus feeding stockpile. We've talked about that, but we got mollywomped here for sure. 12 inches of snow. You can see a lot of what we used the snowblower on has already drifted back shut again. Just a frozen tundra out here for sure. Let's walk around and check in on livestock again. I kind of want to check these paths out here in the field just to see where they've been at already today. Okay, yeah, so looking back, I mean, look at the look at the wind, just absolutely ripping here. Isn't that interesting? Look at their, I mean, these are livestock tracks, you know, both cattle and sheep. They've been all the way out there, and then they've gone all the way back. Okay, I'm super intrigued here. This is going to be a chore to walk through a foot of snow here, but I'm really intrigued to see, you know, I just wonder if they hit that stockpile, yeah, because there would have been some of that left. All right, let's make the trek. Okay, so heading out here. I'm gonna get a little smarter today, wrap up my face. Had somebody message me after that last video sending me face covering options. Thanks. Anyway, things that I think we did well. Obviously water, amazing. Moving that hay bale over into the barn before the storm. That was a fit. I think we have yet to master wind direction. And, you know, just keeping them out of the wind when you don't have a barn. Honestly, I think the best setup, and it's always like this, the best setup is how nature does it, right? And that's the woods. I always come back to the wild deer population. You know, how are they doing it? You know, you'll see them out there in the field running today. That's not what they do. They go in the woods. And so I think having some kind of a little wooded area, you know, that they could tuck out of. The trick there is still having, you know, the hay, the water accessible. All right, so looking at their tracks here, that area up there would have been the stockpile. I don't see many tracks up that way. It looks like they kind of came down here and turned and then went up that way. You know, it might have been them getting out of that north wind too, since there was nothing really up here for them to get away from that north wind. They may have just, you know, just curved around up there on that fence row to where those trees are at. So again, you know, that's back to my point, you know, of the woods, a wooded area. You know, the problem with that is, are you really gonna curate a wooded area, you know, right in the middle of your pasture? You know, silvopasture can be productive, but I don't know. There's challenges there, but know this, that's what I would favor in the middle of the winter in terms of a windbreak, would be the woods. You know, whole different set of challenges there with branches falling in high winds though. Just is what it is, but if you could figure that out, how to incorporate the woods in the winter time, I think that'd be the way to go in terms of a windbreak. Okay, and then back in here in the barn, the one other thing I did want to say, many of you have taken our micro haylage course. I had somebody comment on the looking like the DEA needs to do a drug bust in here. Appreciate that. I'm on the watch list now. Anyway, this is small scale haylage, going to be very high in protein and energy, consequently very valuable this time of the year. The problem right now with -13 degrees is these are frozen solid. They're like bricks. What we've been doing, we'll take a couple of these in the mud room in the evening for the next day, and then that allows them to thaw out somewhat, and we can mix them with the hay and feed them. In that course, we show both making the haylage, micro haylage in the blue barrels there, which gives us about, I believe it's around 300 pounds. Each one of those are like 35 pounds. So, but again, the problem, we started out doing the barrel, the problem with the barrels, that thing's frozen solid right now. I mean, you can see here's a half open bale. It's just, I mean, it's frozen. And not only can we not split it apart, but the animals really are not going to consume it as readily when it's that cold. But all these instructions on making this stuff, that course is on the website there. And the idea there, guys, is you're taking, what God gives us in the spring, which is the cool season, grasses and forage, and you're preserving that. Fermenting those grasses, it doesn't add to the protein or the energy, but you're locking that in and preserving that really good spring forage for use this time of the year. And that's where it gets very, very valuable, not having to bring in the inputs and being able to make that stuff on farm with your extra grass. Anyway, check out that course if you get time. Thank you to many of you that have already purchased that. I hope it's helping you out. But no, that's the advantage there to those smaller 35-pound bales, is you can kind of plan ahead on a small herd or flock, and you can get those in the garage or in the mud room or whatever to kind of thaw there for feeding that next day. And then one other note too, your hay is really what's going to come up short energy-wise. You've got protein and energy, and it's not too hard to find hay that's at least, for nobody in late gestation, early lactation, 7-8% protein on the hay, should pull most animals through. Again, not being in that late reproductive cycle there is the key, but it's the energy, it's the carbohydrate where you're really going to struggle. And then if your sheep don't have what they need on that energy, especially as you get to late gestation, you're going to start seeing something called pregnancy toxemia, where they just don't have the energy needs, and it takes them down. And so you want to be aware and stay on top of those energy needs. It's can be a challenging thing to do on grass-fed. I'm seeing a pat drop there. Yeah. Okay, that's starting to look a little higher than what I want to see. So that's telling me right there we got to introduce a little more of that haylage and get that haylage out here. Of course, the first preference, the primary way I'd like to be getting these guys what they need is that stockpile. Stockpile it is the best, in my opinion, to keep them grazing. But on a day like today, I'd say, we had 6 inches of snow, and they were fine. They were digging through. I mean, obviously, there's a little bit of stockpile out there, but they're preferring to be up here out of the wind. So there's a point there where, yes, I think, that point for us is probably, I'm going to say, 8 to 10 inches of snow. When we start seeing that, I think that's kind of when, we need to have a little bit of hay on hand and, get them out of the wind and weather and keep them going with what they need here. But be conscious of that energy as well. And I know, too, I'll inevitably get somebody on here that wants to give me a lecture about hay rings. I don't use hay rings for 2 primary reasons. Number one, the horns on these cattle beasts. I'm not dealing with somebody getting hung up in the ring and dragging that thing around and, whatever else. I'm not going to be out here horsing around with that. We feed hay as the animals need it. a couple times a day, and that is about as efficient as we can get. The other thing is, if I had a hay ring, all these sheep over here, nobody would eat. They wouldn't be able to get to the feeder because cattle would guard the feed. Okay, that's how that works. Cattle just take over, and you know, you wonder where the term bully comes from. You just watch that bull with his feed. And so not doing feeders. Yeah, sure, it would be good to get the feed up off the ground, sure, but what we'd pay for with sheep not eating and then having those horns hung up in bars and everything else, I just choose not to go that route. So still welcome to comment on it though. Light me up. And then the last point I wanted to make here is on farm kids. Farm kids in times like these, they do things only city kids can dream of. Okay, yesterday, you know, we're in the midst of this huge storm, you know, blowing snow everywhere, and my kids have strapped a tube to the back of the go-kart and pulling it around the driveway. I just love it, you know. I mean, we didn't prompt any of that. They just went out and figured it out, you know, hooked it up, and there's just enough snow after we had used the snow blower that was laying on the driveway to kind of cover the sharp rocks. And you know, but these lessons that are imparted to the kids as well, that you know, this is real life. You know, talked about that pruning last time. You know, sometimes weak stock and animals, you know, they don't always make it, and we get harsh conditions, things happen. Most everything really is out of our control, and we just do the best that we can. But like today, I'm just reminding, you know, yeah, it's -13, but sunshine, right? What a great blessing in the sunshine today, helping us out. And anyhow, good for the whole family out here. I can see this driveway we snowblowed is already back covered again with the drifting. So anyhow, I hope you are well and staying warm wherever you're at today. Yeah, thanks for following along today. And we're just fine, guys. Thanks for reaching out and keeping us in your prayers. And, be well out there. Be at peace. We'll talk to you next time. Take care.